XDA for all your iGaming banking needs. Looking for a Curacao-friendly banking provider who also are crypto-friendly, where the onboarding doesn't take months. Take advantage of our vast industry knowledge. Make and receive payments to and from 100+ countries. Get support in your preferred language. XDA, unifying iGaming, crypto, and banking.
Andria, CEO of XDA, it's brilliant to have you here at the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's an amazing company, and the concept and the podcast, I feel honored to be invited.
It's a pleasure. And this is a special episode today here with the magical views of Malta in the background for those who are watching the video. And Andria, so you're the CEO of XDA. You have a background at Revolut and FCA, and you have an incredible background, a PhD in statistics. But can you just start off by introducing yourself and your background a little bit before we begin?
Of course. Well, I started my career a bit as an academic, aspiring to change the world of economics. And I joined the UK financial regulator because that's where you feel you can make a real impact, and you really do. Changing the legislation to adapt the industry, to make it smoother, enable innovation, learning a lot from almost like an eagle's eye view on how the financial payments and banking industry works. And then I moved into the industry actually because there is a huge difference between seeing it from above and actually being in the trenches, if you like. And there it was Revolut, kind of a startup, but not so much anymore, really exploding, growing, and wanting to do is geographical expansion, capturing new markets, and then learning how each regulator looks at payments, at crypto, because Revolut was actually, and is, quite involved with crypto. And then moving into XACE, which was more heavily involved with iGaming, gambling, and offering accounts to those industries and areas that historically have struggled to get an account. And I thought that was quite fascinating. Then, so there was a bit of a missing piece. Yes, it's great. Yes, we have tapped into a market that for many years has been considered high risk. I'm not saying it's not, but with the right expertise, it can be managed and it can be serviced and it can foster innovation and push technology forward. But there was that element of these iGaming companies really adopting and being one of the first industries to welcome crypto as a method of payment for them. But most institutions were more hesitant. So that's where the idea for XDA came out, that we need a way of settling both fiat and the crypto needs of the iGaming and gambling industry into one account and reducing that friction, those barriers, those intermediaries even more. And it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and so the purpose of the episode today is we want to ask the question a little bit of why the banks are so scared of crypto and iGaming companies in general. And can you talk about why it is that the banks are so scared of opening accounts even for heavily regulated iGaming companies?
Yeah, I mean, and rightfully so. I don't blame them for being more hesitant in touching those industries. If you think of risk or an industry that's risky, so to speak, it's not that the casino in itself has a risk. What they are seeing is that it is very difficult and very expensive to distinguish between a casino or an iGaming company that does things properly and one that doesn't necessarily follow the legislations or the rules. And that's because at the face of it, they may both look similar. And it requires a certain level of expertise, human capital, infrastructure, to be able to distinguish. And so from a bank's perspective, you would say, well, I'd rather take a step back and not really be involved because you have to invest in that. with these industries and continue servicing industries that have been around for many years, that I know what to look for, how to look for it, how to engage with the clients themselves, because the clients I work within or the owners of gaming companies, and you surely have met a lot, they're a breed of their own. They're not the same owner of a clothing shop. They have different needs, and for a bank, that can be quite expensive, tedious, and so they might not really, when they do their cost and benefit analysis, it may not necessarily add up. Finally, for the well-established banks, reputation matters a whole lot. And whether we like it or not, there is a certain stigma still, not so much anymore with gaming, but with crypto, that it's dark, we don't really understand it. So they may also want to almost take a step back and disassociate so much with those industries to maintain that reputation.
All right. So you're saying that for the traditional major banks, they see crypto as something that they are more scared of than the online gambling industry per se, even though crypto is in everyone's faces every single day.
Certainly. I think crypto is now where gambling was maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It's very new. Gambling wasn't that new, but you had legislation and regulations that were not harmonized. Every regulator or every casino would implement those requirements quite differently. Now, everyone understands it. Everyone is sort of on the same page, at least at the EU level. With crypto, we're still working on that. We're still working on consumer protection where it comes to crypto. We're still working on how that can be marketed, who should be allowed to work with it and who shouldn't. And because of all that uncertainty, we're still quite scared, or the banking industry, the payments industry, to really engage with it and welcome it. And I think there is a certain poetic irony to the fact that gaming and gambling that have been through that journey were the first to welcome crypto within the industry. Yeah.
So looking at crypto specifically, does the bank see any difference if the merchant is taking crypto as a payment method when you buy a flight ticket, for example, like an airline who wants to offer crypto payments versus a gambling company that wants to take payments from crypto, or do they kind of see crypto only and that's the blanket thing?
I would say that crypto tends to be a blanket thing at the moment. Yes, okay, gaming already has a higher risk by itself, so you top that with crypto, and then you are certainly faced with something that you don't even want to look at as a traditional banker. But at the moment, crypto is really something that is you need to do a lot of research whether you're an airline company or whether you're a gambling company, to find the right provider that will be willing to give you the account. Otherwise, you might end up wasting a lot of your time. And that is because we talked about all this lack of clarity, uncertainty of the industry, but also it is, I would dare to say, easier to trace the source of funds where it comes to fiat compared to crypto. It takes a lot more time, more expertise to really understand, okay, well, your clients want to pay by crypto. How do you know where those coins have come from? We know the whole ecosystem was built on the concept of anonymity.
Right.
So how do you trace that and ensure that it didn't come from any nefarious sources or dark sources?
Yeah. And that kind of touches the key issue for the banks, right?
Yes.
The difficulty of conducting due diligence on the blockchain. Like, do you see the risk appetite by the banks changing in the coming years? Like, do you think in the next few years that the banks will be, or say that the major institutional banks, that they will be more accepting to crypto, both from a individual and corporate perspective?
Yes, I think so. I think it will take some time, and it's going to be very much a joint industry journey whereby I'm taking a step back just to help guide where I'm taking this point. At this stage, if you think of a bank or a payment institution, they want to accept someone that is new, a fintech. They brought in lots of experts, they brought in academics, they threw in everything that you have, and they say, right, we're ready to accept gaming companies, airlines, you name it, that solely operate in crypto, or we're all about crypto. And then this payment institution has to rely on its correspondent relationships in order to be able to send funds across. Otherwise, they can't really bank. And so they will go to Bank of Pierre. Hey, Bank of Pierre, can we please have a correspondent relationship? My clients accept crypto. And Bank of Pierre is very likely to say, oh, no.
Yeah. We are very conservative. Bank of Pierre, so.
Of course. Yeah. But very successful bank.
Yeah.
I think that was so they have to think of that, which means that the only way that the industry is going to leapfrog and get to a stage where crypto becomes less of an issue is going to be if payments, and I think they will, because there is that pressure, continuing pressure from their clients, their merchants. They will come together and say, okay, let's agree on certain standards. Let's say if these standards and these checks we consider as become the industry standard, then we will sort of all, it's a tacit agreement. We're going to be more comfortable with that. And then there you can also have the regulator into the conversation. Luckily, the EU has a common regulator that can standardize those expectations and regulations. And I think we're not very far from crypto becoming, and you see it more and more as well, more of a mainstream currency and means of payment that causes less of an eyebrow lift.
Right. Because you obviously have background from a regulatory point of view as well. And I would imagine whenever there's a new technology emerging, that first and foremost, perhaps the more scrutinized and the more fringy industries are first to adopt new technologies, like the iGaming industry. But the regulators are perhaps the last ones to see this from a positive side, because all that regulators do are trying to minimize risk.
Exactly.
And so how do you think from a regulatory point of view, from the finance world, this will progress? I mean, obviously there is the framework now in the EU and so on. So it seems that it's picking up now.
It is picking up. EU, UK, US, you see more stable coins or more currency-backed coins. I think once the issue around consumer protection, because that's what really keeps regulators awake, they want to make sure that Pierre Jr. doesn't lose their money and then they're left maybe without any funds to go to college, or Pierre Senior loses all their pension and then they can't really retire. So once this protection is set, as well as once those two pieces, one is around protection and one is around due diligence, these two are clarified and really come together under a harmonized legislation, the regulator will be, I hope, a lot more comfortable. But
brilliant. So clearly there is a gap in the market here. Then essentially, if the traditional banks are not willing to take these what they consider to be high risk accounts, then these accounts needs to go somewhere, right? And this is seems to be the reason why XDA exists, is to cater to the iGaming industry, and especially those account holders that are dabbling in crypto and so on and so forth. So can you talk about how are you able to take these high risk accounts, and how are you able to conduct proper due diligence on these accounts to make sure that you are covered as well?
Of course, no, that's a difficult question because it's almost like asking a recipe to the most difficult food and dish you're gonna make in your life.
Yes.
But what were my ingredients, at least, and I think they were the right ones so far. There was a lot of human expertise. a lot of network, because to bring together the fiat, you need to have the right banks that are comfortable behind you in accepting transactions that may have been exposed, or clients that use crypto as well as a payment. And then you look into the exchanges. So that's where the network effects start coming into place, because you need to find the right exchanges that will deliver a good service, or liquidity partners that will deliver the right service to your clients at the right price, and that also will ensure that the entire experience is smooth. So bringing those two elements together was quite a Herculean task in the build-up of XDA. Then there was a lot of stress testing all our scenarios around due diligence. So yes, we say we have developed this sort of compliance framework, but what happens in the worst case scenario? What are our blind spots, and how do we ensure that we've done as much as we can to mitigate falling into certain traps? And the final step is that you take a step back and you say, well, you can never cover 100% of all eventualities, but what is a reasonable level of risk that you can expect, and that you can say, despite everything that I could do, that it is possible, all the tools, whether it's technology, software, expertise, constant testing, using data to see whether your existing risk framework makes sense. Despite all that, am I happy with 5% risk? So that was a very holistic exercise that we put together to protect ourselves, deliver a good experience, and push that industry and show that it can be done without really bringing undue stress to the economy, to the gaming industry, the crypto industry. Just try to show that it's possible.
Yeah, so essentially the traditional banking world, they cater to all industries, to all types of people, to all types of organizations. And so for them, it's difficult to conduct due diligence because they are not experts in this particular field. And if I understand it correctly, XDA, you are more niche, let's say. So for you to do due diligence, it's easier for you to train that compliance team and so on, because they are expert in this particular type of accounts, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. They're really experts.
I can be an ambassador.
Of course.
I have a spot open.
Well, I should really call the team. How quickly can you start?
All good. Already on board.
Oh, yes. I'll come again. The team has a lot of expertise on that, and they've seen, even if they haven't directly worked with crypto and gambling, they worked with other high-risk industries, and they know the fundamentals of handling that sort of profiles. Then we have the latest technology and software to make those checks. And you may have the best software, unless you have the experts that know how to use it, then it's not very helpful. So we combine those two to reassure ourselves that the end security is as high as you can get.
Yeah, brilliant. And how has technology evolved in recent times in order to help you to conduct due diligence and to kind of have a better understanding of your accounts? How important is it not only for individuals to do their due diligence, but also to take help of technology?
It's massively important. Starting when was it? A year ago, maybe you would have 2 different companies, 3 different companies that were the main ones you would go and use, because there's no human that has the blockchain in their mind and then they can see where a certain coin has gone through. You would use technology and software to do your checks. Nowadays, you see them not only evolving and becoming more and more tailored, feeding from existing data investigations that they had, but very rapidly adopting advances in technology like artificial intelligence and trying to support endeavors in delivering a good compliance framework, which I thought was quite impressive. And you even see the crypto industry in itself, where it comes to payments. Sometimes you see blockchain becoming in itself a payments network for transfer. It is a payments network, but trying to evolve to capture both crypto and fiat. And I think that's quite fascinating, but absolutely vital in the world of crypto.
Yeah. And the blockchain itself, so we said before that kind of crypto and blockchain was built on the kind of premise of anonymity. But at the same time, the blockchain is also 100% transparent,
Yes.
Right? And so you can go in to see how much money Vitalik Buterin has in his Ethereum account if you want to, and you can see where he moves money and so on. And I would imagine that with technology development that eventually to conduct due diligence, some people on the blockchain will maybe go from being difficult to being the most transparent way to conduct due diligence. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm actually really glad you brought it up, because you're spot on again, Pierre. Because yes, if you think of crypto, when it started, it was about anonymity, but at the same time, blockchain is fully transparent. So it's very rare that you can see a company's bank account and their transactions. But if you think of blockchain, you can go into a casino's wallets and literally see their transactions. So there is a lot of transparency. The question becomes back to the point you were making about expertise. How do you harness all that information that becomes available to you? And the more you build on that expertise, the more banks start building on it, the more comfort they will get the moment that they acknowledge the fact that it's not actually as dark as it may initially come up.
Yeah. So from the outside looking in, it would seem like a prediction, like a layman's prediction here would be that actually if you want to fully understand your customers in the future, you want them to be on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Because then you will 100% see where money comes from and how it flows and so on.
100% is never 100%,
100%,
but I think that there is definitely a use case to move all that information onto a blockchain-like environment to be able to monitor behaviors and transactions and flows.
Yeah, brilliant. And so we've established that for gambling companies and for crypto companies, it's very difficult to, in terms of banking, the first problem they encounter is to get the account, let's say. But let's say if we move past that, are there any other challenges or kind of reasons why to work with companies like XDA that are more specialized on the industry rather than major kind of banking institutions? Are there other challenges that the gambling industry faces when it comes to banking?
Well, the second, and kind of not obvious, but the second barrier that I quite come across a lot and clients talk about is that you get an account and you may suddenly get offboarded for no good reason, or they don't know. They would say, well, we've provided all the information about who we are during the onboarding stage. Why is it that our account gets closed 2 months after? So that's a bit disappointing. Then you have transactions taking quite a long time to be processed, or continuous information requests being sent to them, and that can be frustrating. There is a sentiment that there isn't much learning from the behavior of the client. If a certain payment has been queried in the past and then it comes up again, then there is that frustration that starts building. And then there is an element of the owners, directors of gaming companies feeling that their financial institution doesn't really understand their industry and asking questions that don't really make sense. They will still answer them, but they'll say, but it's not really relevant to my business model. This is where we are. So those are quite some challenges that they come across. And on the more human perspective, there is a feel that they are treated as second class customers, that they're not as important. And that's something that XDA we really put really high emphasis on ensuring that everyone feels looked after and that they are a priority, rather than, well, because you're in gaming, you're actually, for us, you are important. Any concern, any question, even let us know in what language you'd like us to speak to you. And if we have someone that speaks that language, we have, I think, about 10 different languages of employees, people that can speak to the client in their language. Just making that journey a little bit more tailored, personalized. And I'm not even going to go into fees, because then that's going to be a very long discussion.
But I'm curious also to know about safeguarding customers' deposits. So, now we are 2 years from the several bank runs that happens in the US and across the world, where Silicon Valley Bank fell over because of a bank run, and a lot of rumors. Obviously, there's been a couple of big cases in the crypto world, which is not insured by the kind of bank policies and so on. And I remember when all this went down, that your former employee, Revolut, sent out messages to their clients, ensuring the clients that your deposits are safeguarded, they belong in a separate respected bank, and so on. How do you safeguard your clients' accounts and avoid risk of bank runs and stuff like that?
Precisely the same way. So as a payment institution, 100% of client deposits get safeguarded. So that means we don't offer loans, and we don't have that credit exposure either. Right. We also don't give interest, but that's a separate story. Yeah. But it gives that reassurance that whatever money you deposit at XDA is not a penny will be used by us or anyone else other than yourself, and you'll be safeguarded in a financial banking institution. Yeah. To ensure that all is looked after. And when you select your banking institution that will do that safeguarding, you also need to be very careful. So we very carefully curate and they need to be very internationally recognized global institutions with which we would work with to allow them to safeguard the funds of our clients. That is of utmost importance for us.
Because that was the cause of the bank runs a couple of years ago, is that many banks, or most institutional banks, they don't just hold on to your money that you have in your safety and your savings accounts. They will take those money and invest those in other, hopefully low risk assets and so on. And it turned out that Silicon Valley was exposed to really high risk assets, and when the economy changed, all of a sudden they were not liquid anymore. Yeah. People realized it and withdrew all their money and so on. So that's what you're saying, that in XDA you don't touch the money of your customers, essentially.
No, not now, nor ever. Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. So brilliant. Just to round off here today, Andria, XDA is a fairly new product, of course. You are building the company still. What is the ambition, would you say, and where do you see the company in 3 years' time, or say 2 years' time, if it's a new business?
The ambition is that it's the company that you think of whenever you have a business model that is misunderstood by the traditional banking sector. XDA is all about innovation, it's all about security, it's all about embracing new technologies, new payment methods, new financial instruments, if you like. So that's the ambition. We are growing. We started with something novel, that marriage between crypto and fiat settlements. We've grown to accommodate a few other sectors that have had traditionally difficulties in getting an account. And that's, for me, the future is about global expansion, product expansion, and in industry innovation.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Andrea. This has been a fantastic, interesting conversation to learn more about crypto and banking in general. I wish you all the best of luck with XDA, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's really been a pleasure.